It's time for Pure Performance.
Get your stopwatches ready. It's time for Pure Performance with Andy Grabner and Brian Wilson. Hello and welcome to another episode of Pure Performance. My name is Brian Wilson, and as always, I have my co-host Andy Grabner here with me, hot off the presses. Literally just finished doing a webinar on the same topic we're talking about. So this should be probably the most interesting podcast we've ever done, ever, period. No pressure. Hey, Andy, how you doing?
I'm really flattered now that you actually think that I have a good webinar. And actually the person standing very close to me because we're sharing the same microphone was also part of that webinar. So the pressure's on, but we accept the challenge.
Oh, yes, we do. Hi, everyone from my side. This is Dirk from Dynatrace also.
Hi, Dirk.
Hey.
So you all just finished doing a bit on Keptn. Now, if you remember, Andy, a few months ago now, but several episodes back, we talked to Alois Reitbauer of Dynatrace, and he gave us a nice, let's say, higher level view about what Keptn is. We did get into some of the detail of it, obviously, but we promised we would be back with Dirk to get into the nitty gritty of it and the inner workings. And that's what we're going to do today. Am I correct? Or did I completely miss the memo on what we're really doing?
No, that's exactly what it is. I think we really wanted to give more people the chance to learn more about Keptn and really understand, for instance, what I asked Dirk today. Why did we choose technologies like knative? On which platforms are we running? What type of tools does Keptn interact with? And I think these are some of the questions I keep getting when I, fly around and give, talks at meetups or conferences. These are the questions that I get. And some of them, I'm very comfortable answering. Some of them I always then have to check back with Dirk if I'm not saying something rubbish. And that's why it's great to have Dirk here, who is leading the development team on Keptn.
Awesome. And before we let Dirk introduce himself a little better, I do want to just make sure everyone who's listening understands that Keptn is not a Dynatrace product that you pay for and license. It is an open source project that you can use. You don't even have to use Dynatrace along with it. So please don't get turned off that we're going to be speaking about a Dynatrace product today. Mm-hmm. This is what's the easiest way to say this? A pipeline management tool. What would you say? How would you describe it in a little bit like, or actually, let's let Dirk do that. Dirk, how would you welcome to the show? I know you already said hello. Give us, why don't you tell us a little bit your background? But before you do that, what if you had to give, Keptn is a blank tool, right? How would you fill in those blanks?
Keptn is a continuous delivery and continuous operations tool. Let's say framework, not tool. Let's go with framework.
Okay, perfect.
There's two terms that they just threw out there, right? Continuous delivery and continuous operations. And I think this is the cool thing about that it really supports both aspects. And I know you want Dirk to kind of introduce himself, but I also want to say something about this because this also needs a shout out to Alois, because Alois came up with a great analogy on how to differentiate continuous deployment and how we call it autonomous operations. And he's comparing it with what NASA is doing when they put rockets into space. They have launch control and they have mission control. So launch control being the team that is responsible for making sure the rocket can lift off, and they're responsible until the moment when the counter goes to zero. And at any point in time, they can abort the mission, well, because they may find some quality issues, some environment issues, something goes wrong. And once the rocket lifts off, they switch over to mission control, and those folks then responsible for the operations of the whole rocket, which means get them up to space, get them safely down again. But they have to deal with different things, and they cannot just simply abort a mission. And I think that's actually the cool way. And we have to give Alois credit for it because he really came up with that analogy.
It is a nice analogy.
Yeah, you have to be a real rocket scientist to come up with that analogy. Okay, so thank you. So with all that, right? So Dirk, we know you're going to be telling us a lot of stuff. You're going to be expanding on this, but let's let people know a little bit about who you are, because probably a lot of our listeners don't know much about you, unless they've been already checking out the Keptn project. They probably see your name all over it, I'm sure. But let us know who you are and how you maybe got involved in Keptn and what your favorite color is or something.
Okay, nice. I like colors. So I've started working at Dynatrace for close to 4 years now, and we've been focused on working around autonomous cloud management. That it's a service offering we have at Dynatrace that deals with what is actually necessary for a company to become really cloud native, to start shipping software with high quality, with release very often, and produce stable releases. And we took the learnings that we ourselves did and created the Keptn project out of that. And how I came to work on Keptn, well, we've actually started the project now for something like 1 year ago internally. And at the start of the year, we started with the open source project, also available on GitHub right now. And that is basically what I spend my time on right now. And my favorite color is blue.
Well, thank you.
See? I didn't know that. And I think actually you probably like it when it switches from green to blue.
Yeah.
The blue components.
See, and growing up, my favorite color was green. I have to say, I'm not even making that up. So, what about you, Andy? What's your favorite color? Since we're talking about it.
As a kid, I always said red because I like the fire and I like the not fire as fire, but like the warmth.
As a kid, I liked fire.
Passion. Yeah. No, I think it's still red.
Okay, so there we have red, we have green and blue deployments, and then the red signals for when something goes wrong, and you know to switch back to the other. Perfect.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
So, and that actually plays into Keptn a little bit. But anyway, let's go on. Andy, you're very familiar with the webinar, so why don't you take over the line of questioning, because obviously you know where we can lead this and all the cool stuff we can let our listeners know about with this.
Mm-hmm. So I think what people keep asking me, and first of all, where can I find out more about Keptn? But I think that should be very easy and straightforward, right?
Sure. Yeah. So we have a community. We have a GitHub repositories. So we have an own organization, github.com/Keptn. Mm-hmm. We have a repository that shows all of the details about our community in there. We have a Twitter handle. It's Keptn Project, mm-hmm. where you can follow us. We have a Keptn at Dynatrace email address, and we're very proud of our very own Slack channel. And Slack workspace, where you can actually also join in, get updates on the continuous work that the team does. So they give updates on the tasks they're working right now. We make short summaries of what we've covered in the last sprint. And of course, you get information on the latest released versions and what the features that were added are. And this is also the perfect place to actually engage with the Keptn team and with us. And also tell us what you like about Keptn, tell us what you don't like about Keptn, tell us what you're missing in Keptn, because in the end, what we want to do is build the framework in a way that really solves the real life problem of continuous delivery and continuous operations.
Mm-hmm. And that brings me to the next question, because I think some people are, when they approach me, they say, so you are building stuff. And I think that's the first big differentiation from Keptn to CI. We're not doing CI. We're not building images or artifacts. Actually, the life of a Keptn trace, or whatever we're going to call it, but the duty of a Keptn starts when there's a new artifact. And so my question to you is, what is an artifact for Keptn, and what does it actually then trigger once there's a new artifact available?
Mm-hmm. So, as you said, continuous integration is not a part of Keptn. So whenever a new artifact has been built, and this can be a jar file, a WAR file, or a Docker container, if you're already working on cloud-native platforms, we get an event, so we get notified about that. Mm-hmm. And what Keptn then does is it is notified about a new container image, for example, and it starts to update the configuration of the project that you've created. So that's one of the peculiarities of Keptn. It follows the configuration as code approach. Mm-hmm. So all of the configuration about your application environment and everything is stored in GitHub. Mm-hmm. And it updates the configuration in GitHub and then again sends an event to Keptn. So as you've probably now also know, is Keptn follows an event-driven architecture, which allows you to decouple the service pretty easily. And then it deploys the artifact using a service that is adequate for deploying that type of artifact that you have sent us. It evaluates certain quality gates that you can also define as code. So following the monitoring as code approach, Andy, that you've been preaching over the last few years. Once we decide that the quality gate is passed or not, we can actually decide if we want to continue promoting this artifact to the next stage. So let's say we started in a dev stage, for example, we can decide if we want to promote it to the staging stage or to a hardening stage or whatever you want to name it. And then this whole workflow begins again. And in this workflow, we can also define if we want to do a direct deployment, blue-green deployment, or a canary deployment, and also define the test strategy. So only execute functional tests, execute performance tests, and so on and so forth. And all of that is again stored in a configuration as code and again in the GitHub repository. So there are a few patterns in there that we've covered now, but this is the basic functionality that the framework provides.
And I think what's really the way I always explain it, we can do all of this if we want to by taking a bunch of tools and then writing some custom code that says, once I get a new artifact, then I kick off this Jenkins pipeline for deployment. Then I kick off this testing tool through this particular API. Then I write a Python script or some other script that does another thing. And basically what you explained to me is that Keptn takes care of the complete orchestration. That means instead of me, you, 50 other teams within Dynatrace, 10,000 other teams across the world, building their own integration and their own pipeline, their own custom code in order to implement things what we've been preaching about. Automated deployment with different deployment types, right? Canary, blue, green, shadow, dark. Automating tests, automating quality gates, scaling up, scaling down, self-healing, instead of implementing this all, let's say, by hand, quote unquote, right? And then doing this not once, but many, many times. This is why, what at least the big problem Keptn solves for me. Because once I've set up Keptn, I don't need to write any custom gluing code anymore because Keptn orchestrates these tools. And Keptn takes what I produce as a developer, which is an artifact, and then is then automatically getting all the right tools involved to push this artifact in a safe, automated, fast, reliable way through the different stages all the way out to production, right? And I think that's pretty cool.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Well put.
And hey, can I ask? Try to simplify it even more. I might get it wrong, but this is why I want you to correct me because I'm really, to me, I think it's really important to really know how to explain it on simple levels to people. And Dirk gave us a good one earlier, but I'm trying to think of simplifying it even more. Could we say, let's take if Kubernetes is to containers, as Keptn is to pipelines. Maybe like a management layer, an orchestration layer on top of your pipeline, right? Maybe I don't know.
I would rather say maybe on top of what people consider a deployment or a release, right? You're releasing software, you have a change, and you want to get this change or this deployment through different stages in a safe way out to production. So Keptn orchestrates the way to production, and it orchestrates production too. Because remember, launch and mission control. Getting to production is already a challenge, but then keeping it in production or keeping the stuff in production so it doesn't break your business is the next big challenge. And so Keptn orchestrates all that, and right. it is following certain principles. It is implementing a lot of the use cases we've been talking about for the last couple of years, like the blue-green deployments. How do you do this and how do you monitor it? How do you scale up? On which metrics do you scale up versus scaling down? How to enforce automated quality gates? What type of information do you push or pull from your monitoring tool at which particular stage? So Keptn is completely automating all of that. But I believe what's also important to understand is that Keptn itself actually doesn't do the work. Keptn just gives orders. Keptn orders a certain tool with a certain capability to do a certain task. And I think that's the thing. And the way the workflow, the pipeline looks like is defined in code as well. That's why we have the concept of a shipyard file where you specify you have 1, 2, 3, 4 stages. What type of deployment strategy, what test strategy do you have, and how do you decide if you want to promote an artifact, yes or no? That's all through code.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. Cool. Does it make sense? So hopefully.
Sure, it does.
Yeah.
It's a good explanation.
Dirk, does that make sense to you? Do you understand Keptn, Dirk?
Is this really what you're working on?
Now I do. No, I think the Kubernetes analogy works to a certain extent, if you apply it to...
Meaning that it's like an orchestration layer on top of this really large, complex, what could be out-of-control system. You can orchestrate it on this high level, as we discussed. But
you can orchestrate basically anything that has an API. So we got this question also earlier. So what are the requirements of tools that Keptn can talk to? And the only requirement this actually is that it needs to have an API that can be called from a service out of Keptn.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, what I like a lot, I don't consider myself a great developer anymore because I don't spend that much time on engineering anymore. So when I got exposed to Kubernetes and then to Helm and to YAML files and to namespaces and to kubectl and to Istio, then I thought, oh my God, in order to deploy a container, I need to understand and learn all of these things where the only thing I really want to deploy my container in a safe way. And I think this is actually what Keptn takes away from me when it comes to the launch control part. Because the only thing I tell Keptn, hey Keptn, you will see an artifact from me. And if you see a new artifact of, let's say, the front end or the backend service, here is what I want you to do. Deploy it here, run these tests, evaluate. And if it's good, deploy it in production. And in case it fails in production, then I have a script that you can execute. Or I want you to notify me via Slack, and then I'll take care of it. And I think it takes away all of the configuration. It takes away all of the complexity of all these many tools and frameworks I need to actually really properly run cloud-native apps on Kubernetes, because it's not just Kubernetes anymore. Right?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
There's so many tools involved right now for deploying stuff, for testing stuff, for notifying about changes, right? So, for example, if you consider a tool landscape where you have like 11 different tools, and we have a survey for that, the Autonomous Cloud Survey, where we actually found out that I think on average, there are like 11 tools in each continuous delivery pipeline. Now, if you want to add Slack integration into all of those tools, you have to actually go into the tools, install the Slack plugin, if there is one. Otherwise, you need to write the integration on your own. And once you're done, I think 2 or 4 weeks have already passed. And well, Keptn makes it way easier to add like a Slack service in there, because coming back to the event-driven architecture, you can subscribe services to certain events. So what you would need to do is write a Slack service, and I actually have done that, and subscribe it to the channels, and you get all of the notifications that you want to get without touching any of the tools that you want to integrate or that you want to have the updates from.
Yeah, because Keptn is the central hub, and Keptn is the central orchestrator. So everything goes through Keptn, and then you can, connect any other tool to Keptn for certain events. And that's why, the Slack service, by the way, people that are listening, you should really watch the performance clinic we just recorded, because there's some cool little gimmicks that Dirk built into the Slack service for me. I will not spoil it now.
Let's say there are many Keptns.
There are many Keptns involved, exactly. So this is pretty cool. The other thing, so going a little technical now. So Knative, you decided, or the team decided to bet on Knative. First of all, quickly, what is Knative and why did we choose Knative?
Knative is a framework again that was built by Google and is actively maintained by Google. It builds on Istio and Kubernetes. So that is great, because Kubernetes is basically has won the the PaaS war, if you want to put it like that. And Google also actively maintains Kubernetes. That is a good. So we found that it is a good choice to go forward with that. And the reason why we chose Knative is that it offers several features that we would have had to implement ourselves otherwise. And the core features that we use of Knative are two. There is the serving feature that allows us to scale up and scale down services on demand, and also scale Kubernetes services down to 0 instances, which is not possible with Kubernetes out of the box.
Okay.
That means we are able to keep the resource footprint that is needed of your continuous delivery pipeline environment as small as possible. So you don't have a Jenkins instance that is really large and runs several days without you ever using it over the weekends, for example. And the second feature we're using heavily is the knative eventing feature. That actually allows us to decouple all of the components and all of the tools that are part of your continuous delivery pipeline and receive events and forward those events using channels where, again, services can subscribe to and can work upon receiving an event.
And the cool thing of that approach, of that architecture from Knative, because all the events end up in queues, so this is also the way you can scale, right? If you have a massive amount of events coming in, because in large organization, they have hundreds of thousands of projects, and these events eventually queue up, and then they will be processed. Once Knative can then scale up certain services it needs. So, hey, I have a service that now needs Jenkins. So if the resources are available, I will scale it up, give Jenkins that event. And I think that's it. Because the question of scale came up last week when I presented this at a conference, and they were saying, how do you scale? Well, I said, well, Knative itself is basically serverless for Kubernetes. So it has scalability architecture in, and that's also one of the reasons why we used it. So I think we took care of that problem right away from the start by choosing that framework, right?
Yeah, we did. And Knative is right now in version 0.6, so it's also let's put it like that, it's a young project still. But still they provide also like guaranteed storage of your events. So you can implement your event storage with Kafka or with Nuts from the CNCF, for example. So there are enterprise-ish features already in there, and there will be even more of those features that then we in turn will also actively use until the release of Knative 1.0 in autumn. So
pretty cool. So Knative, so that explains why Knative. That means Keptn is the orchestrator. Keptn sends events to the channels that are then picked up by let's call them serverless Keptn services, right? For the different tools. So in case anybody wants to write their own integrations for their tools, right? They have, like we had a question today, how would this be integrated with a static code analysis tool? When can we trigger it? And then somebody would just need to write a Keptn service that says, please Keptn, call me in case you are kind of internally issuing a certain event. Let's say deployment finished, or start your tests, or evaluate. Then you can decide on in which phase of the pipeline, of the workflow you want to be called. And then you can then call your tool and then tell Keptn what your tool actually thinks about the whole artifact, right? Right? So there's also in the documentation, and there's a Keptn's website, keptn.sh.
Yes.
And you can go to the docs, and there's a section under, I think, use cases or references.
It's reference,
yeah, where it says how you can write your own service in case people are interested. And I think you mentioned today there's also some templates.
Yeah. So we have right now one template, and it's going to be extended by another one. We have a template for a TypeScript service, for a TypeScript Keptn service, and we will have an additional one for a Keptn service written in Go. The basic requirement for a Keptn service still is you need to be able to digest cloud events. So you need to be able to spin up a HTTP endpoint, receive an event, parse the payload, and either do yourself something about that, or tell a third-party tool to trigger some action for you. And so you're not limited to any programming language, actually. So that's also pretty neat.
Yeah. So to give an example, because I was just working with Henrik from Neotis. He's building the Neotis or Neoload executor Keptn service. That means when Keptn says we need to run performance tests, he has a service that gets called in case a start test event comes in, right? Basically, it's an HTTP endpoint in a Docker container. Knative makes sure that this Docker container is available at the moment when there's a new event coming in. It passes this event over to Henrik's code, and in the event, it says, here is the service in this particular stage you need to test, and here's some additional information that the user told us about it. Now, do your work, and when you're done, you just send an event back to Keptn about your result. Tests failed or tests passed, right? So,
yeah. And he's writing the service in Java.
He's writing,
and there is, so it's really easy to start with so cloud events is a specification of how cloud events should look like. Mm-hmm. So there is just a specification on what fields are mandatory, what fields are optional. And there are also SDKs for cloud events. There are an SDK for Go, for TypeScript, for Java, I guess, for Python. And if it's really a good starting point to use one of those SDKs to just get started with writing Keptn services.
But essentially, a cloud event is an HTTP call with a JSON-based payload, and then that JSON you have, certain metadata in there, like what type of event, and then the payload. Right?
That's all it is.
That's really to keep it easy or simple. Cool. So Knative, people can write their own services. We have a couple of services right now already that are part of the Keptn install.
Yeah.
And then there's more coming. And I think we need feedback from the listeners on what are the tools that people are using out there in the cloud native world, and where they would like to include them or integrate them with Keptn. So I think that would be great feedback for us to hear, right?
Definitely, yes. So it's always good to hear in what environments Keptn is used, and just what use case are you trying to cover with that. And during the discussions, we usually learn about the tools that the customers or people are using. Mm-hmm. And this is also a great direction for us, and also validating our concepts. So does the concept that we've built up until now cover this use case, cover this tool? Or, for example, do we need to add an additional field in the cloud event specification because some tools, want to pass data on from the test execution phase to the validation phase?
A classical or a typical stage, like if you look at a pipeline in Keptn, we call them shipyard files. We define if a shipyard file where you say stage dev, staging, and then production. So in a classical, in one of these stages, I think the minimum things what Keptn, or the opinionated way how Keptn looks at a stage is, the first thing that happens is a deployment.
Yes.
Then optionally, I think tests to be executed.
Well, not optionally. Well, you can write a service that fakes that it runs a test.
Okay.
Just replies back, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
But you can do that.
Yeah. So deploy, test, and then evaluate.
Exactly.
Right? And then the reason why I mentioned this is because I think evaluate, there's also a service that comes with Keptn that's called Pitometer. And Pitometer is really then using, again, a monitoring or configuration as code approach, where in the developer or whoever is responsible for defining the acceptance criteria for a build or for an artifact into the next stage, they can write this acceptance criteria as code and store it in GitHub. And what this means, actually, they write, I need, let's say, CPU under load after the deployment is done and the tests are run. I want to make sure we're not using that more than this type of CPU memory. This is the response time, the failure rate. We can pull in data, for instance, from other tools as well, like static code analysis tools that we heard today.
Yeah.
So this is it will be configured in a config file, and then Pitometer is the service that we're using right now that is then calculating a deployment score, and based on that, promoted yes or no.
Yeah. And coming back to the initial point that was brought up, this not only works with Dynatrace, of course. I mean, it works with Dynatrace, of course, since we're getting paid by Dynatrace. Yeah. But we also have an integration with Prometheus, with the open source monitoring framework of the CNCF. And the quality gates also work out of the box with using Prometheus as a metrics provider. So,
and I think this is also a reach out or a shout out to any other monitoring vendors. Just build your own Pitometer extension, because Pictometer, the library itself, first of all, can also be used completely standalone, even outside of Keptn. But the way it works is you have data sources. So we have a Prometheus data source, we have a Dynatrace data source. Neotis is working on the Neotis data source. Yeah. I know that our friends from T-Systems, they're currently working on additional data sources. And that's why I know that I want to reach out to everyone out there, whether it's the App Dynamics, the New Relic, the Datadogs, the SignalFX, the Instanas of the world. And I'm sure there's many other out there. Just write an integration, and then you can be part of an automated quality gate, either in Keptn or even standalone, because Pictometer can be used standalone as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Cool. So we learned, we know it's Kubernetes, it's knative based. You can write your own services. And we talked a lot about how an artifact makes it all the way into production. Now let's talk about the production piece a little bit. So the mission control, right? So something gets deployed into production, and then what's the typical remediation use cases? Because I think this is one of the things we've been talking or telling our customers in production. You need to think about automated monitoring, obviously, but then self-healing, auto-scaling, rolling backs, like all these self-healing use cases. Can you tell us a little bit about how Keptn can actually be told about there's something wrong, and what our vision is with Keptn on how to remediate?
Sure. There are a few pieces to that puzzle, actually. So on the one hand, it's a good thing if you build your application already in a way that it can change its behavior to a certain extent if some incident or some event happens. So as an example, if you build out a service that serves dynamic content, like making a query to a database, calculating some stuff, and sending the result back, maybe there is a failover version of that service that, in case the response time gets too high, or you can just switch to a static delivery mode. So just not to get like frustrated users that can't use the service anymore. Maybe just turn down the feature set a little bit, but by that being able to serve many more customers. So writing services in that way is one piece of the puzzle. And we encourage all to write or to use feature flags for toggling this behavior, let's say. So there are frameworks out there for implementing feature flags in your app. There are open source frameworks like Unleash. There are also commercial feature flag frameworks like Launch Darkly. So this is the one piece. Then the second piece, you of course need a monitoring solution to actually initially find out that there is something wrong with your app. And the way this works is that usually some threshold is hit or a baseline is not met anymore. And again, the event-driven architecture, Keptn gets a problem notification that something went wrong.
So for instance, in our case, it would be Dynatrace detects an issue, and then instead of sending it to, let's say, Slack or an email, it sends it to Keptn.
Exactly. And Keptn then forwards that event to a problem channel that in turn services are subscribed to that channel, and those services can then act upon that. So the simplest solution would be to have the service receiving the problem event at the end of the channel, toggling the feature flag in the affected service, making sure that static content is delivered, that the response time goes down, and that the users are satisfied. This is the simple version. There are we actually have two other versions implemented already. One works with Ansible Towers, where you can execute custom runbooks and also parameterized runbooks automatically to trigger the remediation action. And even more sophisticated, you can start ServiceNow workflows upon receiving an event, a problem event. And the crucial part here is to actually check if the remediation action that you've done actually fixes the problem or not. Because just toggling a feature flag and saying, I'm done, it's not mission control.
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't do it to a rocket where people are in there. I think this fixes it. Push the button and then go for a coffee. So it doesn't work.
So that means Keptn will then, like with the artifact, where Keptn kind of in launch control pushes an artifact through different stages and phases, and then can abort it. The mission kind of at every step. With the problem, it's going to be similar, right? There's a problem coming in, and then Keptn keeps track of kind of the lifetime of a problem. That's kind of the idea, right?
Yeah.
And so we can test, we can try different things to mitigate a problem until we finally solved it.
Mm-hmm. So maybe let's look a little bit in the future of what's to come in Keptn also to that regard. So what we will do, or we will introduce at some point, is something. So we had the perf spec, where you have configuration as code, where you define what quality criteria needs to be met before you can promote the service to the next stage. We have also been thinking about a heal spec, where you can define, okay, if this problem appears, I want to try at first, I don't know, restart the process. Let's see if that fixes it. It doesn't. Well, let's scale it up. Let's add an additional instance of that service and see if that fixes the problem. Still not, okay, you toggle the feature flag and see if that helps. But there's always like, do something and then check if it actually fixed the problem or not. And just like have a 4-step approach of what actually a manual operator would also do. But this is something that you can automate as well, because machines are very good at doing automated stuff, also at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, where humans usually like to sleep. At least I do. Depends on my kids, though, but nevertheless. And so this is the path that we are actually going down. So defining 4 different remediation actions that are then checked. And the last step, of course, is usually escalated to a human, because the continuous or automated operations worker can't handle it anymore and can't fix the problem on its own.
Pretty cool. So that means that this covers kind of the 2 major use cases, launch control and mission control. On the one side, getting an artifact safe into production and enforcing the automated quality gates, the automated testing. We talk about blue-green deployments and canaries, which for me is also part of kind of launch control. Then that's when it then flips over, right, if you do blue-green. And then the mission control, so in case a problem happens later, what can we do to automatically mitigate the problem, self-heal, and then Keptn is kind of orchestrating the lifetime of a problem until it's hopefully solved. Right. So that's pretty cool. So I know you said there's a lot of services. Well, the team has already implemented a lot of services, and there's more on the list that we are going, or your team is going to build. Now, we also, from my part of the team, we're working with some of our strategic partners that they also help us. In case somebody's now listening to this podcast and they say, man, I would love to also provide or contribute. I guess the best way to get in touch with you, if they want to contribute and not just like test it out, but really contribute, what's the best way of doing it?
I think the best way is to join the Slack workspace and reach out on the general Slack channel and just say, hey guys, I want to do something with Keptn. This is what I want to do. What do you think about that? And we're really responsive in that channel, because we thrive on engagement from the community, and we're really happy to see on the one hand, the technical partners jumping on the train, the strategic partners jumping on the train. And maybe there are also customers out there that just want to write their own service for a specific use case that they need to fulfill their continuous delivery or continuous operations pipeline. So it's an open source project. You can contribute, you can write your own service, and we're always open for a conversation about Keptn.
And I guess you're also hiring, if I hear this right.
We do, yes.
Yeah, so that means if somebody wants to become a full-time Keptn developer,
also reach out to us.
Yeah, cool, yeah. And I know if I look outside the window, it's really beautiful here. I'm not sure where you are looking for people, but I mean, we're in Austria right now.
Yeah. So mainly in Austria, in the Linz area and in the Carinthia area, in Klagenfurt.
Klagenfurt, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But if you're really interested in the project and are somewhere located on the planet Earth, just reach out to us and
we'll figure it out.
Let's just have a talk.
Yeah, exactly.
But why limit to the planet Earth?
Yeah, true. I'm so sorry.
Come on, that's just so. There could be a Martian that's been observing us for all this time and being like, you know what? This is how I was going to communicate with the humans. Finally, I was going to contribute to this open source project.
And now they're limiting me. Man.
Yeah, sorry for being so close-minded. So.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. Cool.
Hey, let me ask you. Can I ask a question about the future of Keptn?
Of course, you can.
Thank you, Andy. I obviously it's developed for Google Cloud right now, and with knative as a major piece of it, that makes a lot of sense. I was just doing a little bit of searching on knative on other clouds, and it seems like you can get knative to work, but it seems kind of tricky. In the future, do you envision Keptn being able to run on something like AWS or Azure, or does this, or is it dependent on their compatibility with Knative, or basically, what's the future plans for expanding beyond Google?
So we, of course, have the plan to have Keptn run on all major cloud platforms and container platforms. So also on AWS, on Azure, on Cloud Foundry, if you want. So OpenShift, of course. The thing is, we are, and I think this is going to be a huge part of our work also in the upcoming weeks, to find out if it works properly. So pure from a theoretical point of view, it's native Kubernetes based. So it should work on everything that is based on Kubernetes. Mm-hmm. Then again, we know that in practice that is not true. So there are certain peculiarities for each cloud provider that they've built in, and these are the nitty-gritty details that we need to find out and figure out how to solve them, or how to actually use those features in a positive way to make Keptn work on these platforms. Mm-hmm. So, but yes, going forward, we want to have Keptn run on all the major platforms that are out there.
Mm-hmm. And by I would say by the time this recording actually airs, I would encourage everyone to double check what has happened since the recording, because we are actively working on this right now to really get it to run on all of our major platform partners, right? So that's why.
Yeah. So either check out the releases on GitHub, or check out the history in the Slack channel, or follow the Twitter handle. So Keptn Project is the Twitter handle. Usually if there is an announcement like we now run also on AWS or on OpenShift, this is something we like to communicate actively. So
yeah. Awesome.
Cool. Well, I know, Dirk, first of all, I can encourage everyone again to look at our performance clinic. You can find it on YouTube.
Yes.
And also on Dynatrace University. At the very end, you had a little, you had a roadmap slide.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we already covered some of this, what's coming in the future. But so now it's at the time of the recording, June 4th. In 6 months from now, what are the big highlights that we can then look back and say, wow, this is really cool that, we came that far? What are the highlights from your perspective that are coming in the next couple of months?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the largest highlights that also again plays into the user experience, so the experience that Keptn users have when they are using Keptn, to make it way easier to interact with Keptn. So it's easy right now. If you watch the performance clinic, you basically have two files that you need to configure, and you need an artifact, and you're done. But we want to even more closely integrate with Kubernetes. So write our own custom resource definitions and our own Kubernetes operator that handles uniform and shipyard types. And the reason why we want to do that is we can make update of Keptn core services way easier through the operator pattern that Kubernetes provides. So if we, for example, patch a security vulnerability in one of our projects, we can simply roll it out pretty simple without you needing to do anything manually. So that's why we are going for the operator pattern. Also, the updating of your tools that you're using. For example, if you want to use Excel release for your deployment tool instead of, the tool you were using before, you would basically just, again, say kubectl apply of your uniform YAML, and the operator in the background will take care of tearing down the old service, bringing up the new service, and subscribing it to the specific channel. What we're also looking forward for the next 6 months is actually the cross-platform support that we already talked about, running on major platforms. And also, so we've already started with the first ecosystem integrations where third parties write Keptn services with Hendrik from Neotis. You've already mentioned that. T-Systems also about to start. And it's really going to be interesting what the ecosystem contributions bring over the next 6 months as we start to fan out Keptn to even more implementations.
And even without the ecosystem right now, you did a great job. Your team did a great job with the demo apps. So anyone that's listening to this or watching the YouTube video, go on keptn.sh or go to the Keptn GitHub page and then just follow the examples on there, because you have a microservice app, I think originally developed by Weaveworks, the Sockshop app, and they took parts of it out and then just show how Keptn is completely automating the orchestration of the deployment and operations.
Yeah. So you have step-by-step use cases then you can work through to actually experience yourself what it's like to do a blue-green deployment, what it's like if a blue-green deployment fails and someone actually tells you, well, your artifact has not met the specified quality requirements. Go back again and try another.
Yeah. And the cool thing kind of is Keptn actually makes blue-green deployments boring, which is actually a good thing, because you don't have to worry about all the nitty-gritty details in the backend, which Istio configuration to change or anything like that, because Keptn just takes care of it.
Yeah, Istio configuration can be complicated, I know. But that's the beauty again of Keptn, because you don't need to, you just see in your shipyard file, I want to do a blue-green deployment.
That's it.
And that's it. Yeah. And it happens.
Yeah.
All right, so Andy, shall we go ahead and summon the Keptn Summerator?
The Keptn Summerator. So I think maybe we need to record a new jingle for that, huh?
I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, I don't know either.
We'll have to get some Captain Crunch music in the background.
Exactly.
See, there's so many captains. It's great.
Yeah. So the way I see it is Keptn is really a reference implementation of what we have been preaching for the last couple of years around what we call ACM, Autonomous Cloud Management. That means it's a reference implementation of blue-green deployments, canaries, feature flagging, automated quality gates in pre-prod, self-healing in prod, basically fully automating the pipeline, but also operations. And I think that's what Keptn is trying to solve, right? Currently targeted towards cloud-native applications that are running on Kubernetes-based platforms. And we are really comfortable as of this recording on GKE, and all the other vendors follow suit because we're currently working with them to get it running as well. I believe what I think the biggest benefit, well, there's many benefits, but what I really love is the concept of the shipyard and the uniform files, that you can switch tools or include tools on the fly without having to change any of your custom pipeline code. You can change your quote-unquote pipelines, and we call them shipyard files, on the fly to include a new stage, remove a stage in case you get more mature, or change what happens in a stage. And the only thing you need to do is change a YAML file or a config file and make a call to the Keptn CLI. It really makes life much easier for developers to deploy and run their cool apps on cloud-native stacks. And I think this is where, I know there's still a long way to go to get it to where we want it to be, but I hope that people that are listening in right now get encouraged enough to look at it, to start a repo, to download it, to try it out, to give us feedback, to join the Slack channel. And from that, hopefully we'll have another session like this in a couple of months from now. And then we'll see how far we got. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Andy. I just think this is incredible. I mean, besides the fact that it's a cool tool, what I can't get over is the fact that it's this open source tool that everybody can use, and as you mentioned, you don't even need Dynatrace. It almost, Andy, reminds me of, well, it doesn't even remind me necessarily, but it draws a parallel to Azure and Microsoft, how we've discussed a bunch of times, the idea you can use a .NET Core running on Java in Azure, and you're not paying for their licenses. But in their case, you are paying for the Azure resources, whereas in this case, there is nothing you're paying for. So it just boggles my mind that we're doing all this. It's awesome. It's the openness. It's the whole idea of, look at this cool thing we've done, and we want more people to be able to do this, and let's get input from everybody and figure out a way to make the world a shiny, happy place. Which, as Andy, as we've had several talks on episodes, I'm always the one who's pessimistic and you're the optimistic one. So looks like you're winning. in the battle of good and evil, I'll have to come up with some devious plan to take you down next. But it just blows my mind. It's really, really awesome, and I think what you're all doing is amazing. So thank you for doing this, and hopefully it'll really take off, and the technology community at large can be happy with it and thankful. And thanks for doing a double header, Dirk. Webcast to podcast. Cool stuff.
Thanks for having me.
Well, and Andy, come on, don't give me the credit. Andy's the booker.
Oh, I'm just holding the mic here.
Yeah.
little release.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we should make this go really long, and his arm gets tired.
Exactly.
Dirk, any final thoughts? Anything you want to make sure people, if there's one thing they take away, or anything you want to say? Hello to your kids, something. Who knows?
They're too young to listen to that. But if you're involved and engaged in continuous delivery and or continuous operations, please check out what we're doing with Keptn on Keptn SH or on our Slack channel. Reach out to us, talk to us about your use cases and what you're trying to solve. And let's have a discussion about that.
All right, and a reminder to any of the extraterrestrials listening, they are hiring, so you can make your introduction to humanity and the rest of the planet Earth via Keptn. So please, we welcome you. Thank you to everybody for listening. And if you have any questions, any topics you would like to be discussed, or if you have something to share and you want to come on the show, you can send us a tweet at pure_DT or an old-fashioned email at pureperformance@dynatrace.com. Thank you all for listening so much, and make sure to check out Keptn. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.